Everybody's got different needs. Everybody's got different desires of what they want to do, regardless of what kind of player they are. Trumpet players, we have a category. We have categories of ways of music where the trumpet ends up in music. And what do you want to be as a trumpet player where you are?
This episode contains adult language and adult humor.
Since when have trumpet players ever been considered adults?
If you are easily offended by these types of conversations, consider switching to the oboe. Welcome to the Trumpet Gurus Hang podcast. I'm your host, Jose Johnson. My guest for this episode is Chris Tedesco. Chris, well, he's a pretty busy guy. Chris is one of Los Angeles' top call session players. His trumpet has been heard on hundreds of movie soundtracks, television shows, video games, and recordings since 1987. Chris is also a very busy music contractor whose goal is to help his fellow musicians stay busy and to keep the LA music scene thriving. Plus, he's always down for a good hang. So, pour yourself a big glass, flip a chair, and let the hang begin. All right, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Trumpet Gurus Hang. And I am hanging with Mr. Chris Tedesco. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I'm flattered that you asked, and hopefully we'll have some fun.
Well, I doubt that we'll have any problem getting conversation going.
No, I talk too much sometimes, but
no. Well, you know what it is you've got so much experience. I mean, the stories that I'm sure that you could tell, whether it be your days of like when you were with the Miller and the Dorsey Orchestra for a bit, right?
Well, the Miller thing was short-lived, and it's a good story. It's a good learning story. I had graduated from Miami in '83 with a music business degree. But I played the whole time I was there because I don't know if you want to hear the history of the college stuff yet or anything like that. But the Miller thing was a way to get out of Western New York, Niagara Falls, Buffalo. And I actually was in New York City hanging out with my cousin and sitting in with some rehearsal bands. And in Manhattan, this guy said, hey, Miller Band's looking for a second player and a fourth player. It was this guy called Clem DeRosa. He was what did he play himself? I can't remember what he played. His son is a drummer in New York City called Rich DeRosa. But Clem was, I think he was a sax player. And he used to have a rehearsal band, and he would rehearse at Top Cat Studios in New York. Now, this is fall of '83, and I graduate Miami May of '83 with a music business degree, but still playing. And I go to New York thinking, okay, I'm going to try to maybe be a New York musician. Coming from Niagara Falls, there's nothing to do after September in Western New York. I had a job in a musical theater every summer. Every summer from college, '79 through '83, I had a job in a pit orchestra at this place called Art Park Theater, which is a summer stock theater. They would do a month of. They would do a month of musicals, which I think they did 2 musicals in a month, or was it 1 musical a month? I think it was 2 musicals in a month in '79. And then they would also do an opera and a ballet. And then they would supplement that opera orchestra, the Art Park Orchestra, with Buffalo Philharmonic players and a few freelancers. And so, my first time doing it in '79, the second trumpet player, Chuck Lorette, in the Buffalo Philharmonic, I'm taking lessons with him. He's my first real accomplished trumpet player. Not saying that the teachers I had when I was growing up weren't great, but this was a guy that was second in the Buffalo Philharmonic, 1979. And I do my first year of college at State University of New York at Fredonia, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a full-time music major. It was an hour south of Buffalo. I come from Niagara Falls. If I didn't like it, I could always just go home. And when I was a kid coming up through junior high and high school, I always went to the music festivals. It was all county band, sectional, all state, all-state band, all-state jazz band and orchestra, and then all-Eastern and all-national. And I was a soccer player. I was too small to play football. Played soccer, played tennis, played the trumpet, and it's time to apply for colleges. And my mom says, "What are you going to do?" I go, "I don't know if I want to go to music school because a lot of these people are strange. Like, I'm not saying the jazz people are strange because those people are hip, but like, do I want to go to Eastman with violinists? I mean, I went to these festivals and like, I thought to myself, these are the strangest people on earth. I don't want to hang out with them." So I went to Fredonia. It was a music teacher school, a lot of good players, a lot of good classes, but the weather's horrible. It's 1 hour south of Buffalo. You saw that blizzard in November with 5 feet of snow at the Buffalo Bills Stadium, right?
Right.
So Jose, that is not a joke. So literally, I do 1 year for SUNY Fredonia, and I go, I got to get out of here. And the sax player friend of mine, Jim Barron, goes, "Hey, did you know that University of Miami in Florida has a jazz program?" And I'm like, ding, ding. Let's get the hell out of this weather, and we can go play jazz and get a degree. And so anyway, so after the first year of college, I know I want to be a trumpet player, right? Wasn't sure I wanted to do it full time. You know, everybody says, "Hey, you're not going to make any money. What are you doing? You're crazy. Nobody goes into music unless you're incredible. You're really good. You're natural." But so anyways, so first year of college, I go home. I go, "Man, I need to study. If I'm going to do this, I need to study with a rock star." So I think Dave Kewen was the principal player in Buffalo Philharmonic, but I don't think he taught in the summer, because back then, summer of '79, orchestras were not full year round like they are now. They would literally get 2 months off. So Kewen's like, "Nah, I'm not teaching for the summer." He says, "Chuck Lorette's teaching." And Chuck I drove to Buffalo myself, which, it's a half hour from Niagara Falls. And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is a real trumpet player. He's teaching me how to do the Schlossberg the right way and orchestra excerpts." And it's like, and he's a beautiful player. He left Buffalo and went to Pittsburgh. He's been in Pittsburgh since, I want to say, 1980. He's got 42 years, second trumpet in Pittsburgh, I think. And every year I talk to him, I still contact all my teachers if they're alive. And every year he says, "Yeah, I think this is the last year. They're not making me retire, but I think this is it." I actually think this is it for him. But so anyways, I go to him for a lesson in Buffalo, and I go, "Holy shit. So this is the real deal." So anyways, I'm there. He gets a phone call from this French horn player who happens to be the contractor at the Art Park Orchestra in Lewiston, New York, north of Niagara Falls. His name is Milton Kicklighter. He's retired from the Buffalo Phil. Still friends with him. And he says, "Hey, Chuck, do you want to play second trumpet on Kiss Me Kate?" He goes, "Not really. It's the summer. I don't really want to work that much. But there's somebody here I think that can do the job." Am I even 19 yet? Hold on. I'm 18 in December of '78. So it's '79. I'm 18 years old. It's the summer of '79. And I've done shows before, but not professionally, high school and college. And Chuck Lorette goes, "You're totally ready to play second trumpet. It's Kiss Me Kate." He goes, "You can't mess that up." And the first trumpet player was the third trumpet player from the Buffalo Philharmonic, Jerry Sofer, who wants to do the job in the summer to make some extra dough. And Jerry Sofer was an incredible trumpet player too. So my first real job, like summer of '79, is given to me by the second trumpet player in the Buffalo Philharmonics, playing second, sitting next to the third trumpet player from the Buffalo Phil. And what was your question? Holy shit, I just lost my train of thought. Can I say shit or no?
You can say shit.
What? Oh, so the Miller Band. Wait. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, that summer job lasts 79. It lasts four summers, and I do that job, and it's a good job. Union gig. I'm 18 through 22, 23. And it's September, October in Western New York. There's a couple jobs every now and then, but then it's like, whoa, okay. So I graduated college. I got a music business degree. The leaves are falling. Western New York is not the greatest place to live. So I go to Queens, stay on my cousin's couch, take the training every day and every night. Got the trumpet. Don't really want to. I got a music business degree, but don't really want to do a music business day job yet. Like I don't want to work at a publishing company. I don't want to go work for a record company. I don't want to, work for a hotel. So I take the trumpet into town, and I ran into this guy, Clem DeRosa. He says, "Yeah, come and audition for the Miller Band." I got fourth trumpet, and I go, "Damn, okay." So he goes, "Yeah, well, here's your contacts and all this stuff, and these are the people, blah blah blah." So January of '84, I fly to Charlotte, and I don't know if it was a short-term job or not. Might have been open term, or maybe it was filling in. And that's the first real job. You're on the road. You're on a bus. It's the Miller bus, but Larry O'Brien was not leading the band interim. He took a break, and Dick Gerhardt, the second tenor player, was the band leader, and he was awful. Some of the guys in the band were really good players. Some guy, it was a strange vibe because it wasn't a fit, because I wasn't a great jazz player, and I wasn't a great trumpet player yet. We'll talk about the trumpet aspects of it in '83, '84. But it was a way out of Western New York, and it's the Miller Band, right? So in hindsight, I really love old 20s, 30s, 40s more now than ever. At that age of 23, you think you're way too hip to play the Miller Band, right? Like, no, I need to play like Freddie Hubbard. I need to play like Clifford Brown, Lee Morgan. So, but it was a job. I can't remember what it paid. Oh my God, $350, $375 a week, maybe $400, something like that. And I think they paid for their rooms, but maybe they didn't. And so, but it's a way to travel around. You're going to grow up, right? So I'm a dumb, immature kid. The second trumpet player is Bill Spencer. God rest his soul. He's passed on. And the drummer was new, and there's 3 or 4 newbies, right? And it's the Miller Band, and you don't have to play String of Pearls exactly written or Little Brown Jug exactly written, but you got to play in the style. So I'm stupid, I'm young, and I'm messing with it too much. Plus my chops were sliding all over the place. I was changing embouchures, trying to figure out how to play every night and make it work. And this is pre the right exercises to be able to play right. So I think I'm on there 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and I'm hating it. And the band leader's looking at me like, he goes, and it's me and the second trumpet player. We're roommates, and we are off our rockers because we're both not digging it, and we're stupid, young, and dumb. And we're drinking, we're smoking pot. And the band leader, Dick Gerhardt, calls us in the room. He goes, guys, you're not cutting the job. I mean, you got to play close to the solos or something. It's the Miller Band. You got to stay true to the era. And Jesus Christ, what are you doing? And I say, well, can I quit? He goes, I got it better. You're fired. I go, thank you. So mutual parting of the ways. I leave the band in Florida. My parents are in Florida every winter. I think I leave the band in Naples. and go and convalesce with my parents in Pompano Beach or something like that. And I want to say it lasted 2 to 4 weeks. And it just was not a right fit for somebody 23. Now, if I was 23 now, and I think the Miller Band's the only band still traveling with a real schedule. All the other ones are flyouts. If I knew what I know now at my age of 62, at 23, I would have done the job for at least 6 months, got the experience, and then went to a different band, right? No, I was young and dumb, stupid. And so I go back to Buffalo after that happens. And I stay for about 3, 4 months. There's rehearsal bands in Buffalo. I'm playing better. You put your tail between your legs and you pick up your bootstraps and you go, okay, what do we learn from this? I should have played. I should have played it as written instead of like fucking around. Like, so the Tommy Dorsey band managers from Buffalo, New York, Dennis Tribuzzi, incredible lead trumpet player. And there's a rehearsal band in Hamburg, New York. Guy's name was Dick Myrtle. He was a baritone sax player that had a book this thick of every chart ever written. And if you went to Dick Myrtle's and played every Monday night, word got around that you could play. Word got to Dennis Trabuzzi. They needed a 4th trumpet player in the Tommy Dorsey band. In April of that same year, 3-4 months after Miller, I go on with the Dorsey band, and that band is the 180 of the Miller band. Even though it's a big band from the 30s and 40s, it's a 180 of the Miller band. Yes, you got to play some written stuff, but guys in the band are arranging for the band in the style of Tommy Dorsey. Solos don't have to be written exact. Different hang in the band, 180, and it was a fit, and I did it for about 15 months. So that's the story from, oh God, when you get a little pearl from your teacher in Buffalo, you go to Queens, you go on the road for a couple of weeks with the Miller band for a month, you come back, then you go again, and it's the actual beginning of your career as a young person with the Tommy Dorsey band for 15 months. And you do that. I mean, I would advise anybody that's young and wants to do music for a living to go and travel. I mean, there's not that much classical traveling things. I think there are a few things that you could maybe do. Classical traveling, there might be some things. I know there's that Chinese orchestra that travels around, Shen Yun, and they've had auditions here in LA, I know, and young players have gone and done it. But if you're a jazz player or a lead player, if you can get out there and experience life, road, flyouts, cruise ships. I did cruise ships after the road in order to save more money, because cruise ships, you didn't have any expenses on the road. Literally my goal was to get to LA with $10,000. And when I got $11,000 after a year and a half, I saved $2,000 on the Tommy Dorsey band, and I saved $9,000 on the cruise ships for a year and a half there. Cruise ships are great because you had to literally be able to play anything, not classical stuff, but an act would come on the ship, and it could be somebody impersonating a Sinatra singer, and there's one trumpet, one sax, and one bone, and they're literally giving you the lead trumpet part from a big band arrangement, which doesn't really work most of the time. First trumpet, first alto, first bone. A lot of times it sounds so strident, because there's nothing under your support. But sometimes you do have to literally play that first trumpet part. I didn't have lead chops, and I was stupid playing a Bach 3C. It wasn't until I got on the road or the cruise ships that I figured out, like, oh my God, I need a more efficient under part to what I'm doing. But I learned how to play a high F, and I learned how to play a job playing tunes. The old days of you would go to a job and people would say, I think you guys on the East Coast, when you do flats are up on the East Coast. If you're doing a casual,
it depends. Like New York is one way, Philly's a different way.
Is it really? So is Philly down?
Philly's down.
So like New York is up because the old days were like you only played tunes with flats, and so everybody just assumed this is E flat in New York, right? So flat in LA, if you're doing a casual, and something's got 3 flats, it's 3 down, right? So you literally go on a cruise ship, and I'm in a 6-piece band, I'm in a big band, I'm in a quartet, I'm in a quint, and you learn how to play a job with no charts, which is still invaluable to this day, right? And so those life experiences like that, road, cruise ship, what else? The traveling musicals. There's still bus and trucks that go out, where you learn how to live and grow up, and and then traveling, and the whole thing about traveling and playing, you're bringing some kind of music somewhere. If it's a musical, you're going to a different town every week or every 2 weeks, and you're bringing something to that town. That's a beautiful thing. COVID, we're literally coming up on 3 years of COVID, March 13th. It's like the most bizarre time since 1918, the flu. What do you call it? What was it called? Was it 1918? The flu pandemic? Yeah, right. So whatever, how many years later, so you're talking about unprecedented times. So, as things get better and better, how does everybody recover from this? It's through the arts, it's through communications, it's through one-on-one, person to person, either by Zoom. Zoom's great, one-on-one stuff here in town. Good God, if I go to a different town, which I very rarely travel other than for pleasure, I like to go to Italy a lot. But if I go to a town, like when I went to Pittsburgh about 5-6 years ago, I saw Chuck Lorette, second trumpet player in the Pittsburgh Symphony, for the first time, maybe since the last time I saw him in 1980 or 81. And that, let's say it was, I don't know how many years, let's say it's 30 years. And he says, yeah, we can hang out. He goes, we have a rehearsal during the day, and I've got about 4 hours off. Why don't you come to Heinz Hall? We can hang out for an hour or two. And then he said he had to go to dinner with some benefactors. And I think that's the same night I had a job. I had a job that night. So I go to Heinz Hall. I'm hanging out with Chuck Lorette. They're doing a Sinatra concert that night. He's playing second. I don't know if they hired a jazz player to play first. So I'm reconnecting with Chuck Lorette in Pittsburgh. I hadn't seen him in a long time. He says, yeah, meet me at Heinz Hall. And it's freezing cold. It's like November. It's raining. And I'm there with a pop band from here doing a one-off at the convention center doing, we call them casuals. I call them casualties. And that band is like 2 trumpets and a bone and a sax, and we're literally coming in to play anything from swing to Uptown Funk, right? And so I meet Chuck. We sit on the stage of Heinz Hall. The band set up with the orchestra and the kind of big band and orchestra. He's playing second, playing a B-flat trumpet, obviously. And I have my new commercial Bach. He goes, oh my God, let me try that thing. I've heard about these. And so I have a couple film clips of him playing some stuff on it. And we're there for 2 hours convening with each other. Hadn't seen each other in 30 years. And so this personal thing, you and I are doing it now. Like if I go to a town, the first thing I'm doing is trying to look up who's the hotshot in town, either classical or jazz. So I can either get together with him, eat, drink, or pay the guy for a lesson, or get inside his head. Because everybody does something different, like, that learning experience. And then when people come here, if I see somebody coming to town, I'm like, hey, man, hate to barge in, but you got a couple hours? Like, you're coming to LA for a couple of days. I see you're coming, with social media, everybody sees everything now, right? Mike Lovett you know who Mike Lovett is from London?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, have you heard his playing?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. The dude's a classical player and a lead player. And it turns out Seth MacFarlane, the cartoon creator on the Family Guy and America's Dad, and the voiceover guy, he's also a singer. He's a really good jazz singer, big band singer. His favorite lead trumpet player is probably Wayne Bergeron here in town. But when he can't get Wayne, he flies in Mike Lovett. So he flies out from London to do New Year's Eve, and then he comes down to LA with his wife for 5 days just to hang out. And so I see, hey, man, you want to hang out? He goes, yeah. He goes, a couple of the other guys are gone. Wayne Bergeron's gone to wine country. Chuck Finley's on vacation. I go, whatever you need. I go, have you been here before? He goes, yeah, I've been a couple of years ago. We drove up and down California. I go, Mike, whatever you want to do. It's like January 2nd or 3rd. There's nothing going on. Mike, whatever you want to do. I'll take you around. I'll pick you up. Can I pick your brain on how the hell do you play the trumpet like that? Like, if you give me one pearl, I'm not looking for a shortcut, and everybody's got a way that they do stuff. And he's laughing his ass off, he goes, I don't know if I got any secrets, you know what I mean? But I picked him up one day and I took him over to Malcolm McNabb's because he wanted to meet Malcolm McNabb. I go, well, let me text him in the morning and let me see what he's doing. Malcolm's retired. He's going to be 80 in March. Malcolm says, yeah, I heard of Mike Lovett. I hear he's really great. Yeah, you can come by. I mean, come by. Just, text me when you're leaving and picking him up. And it was like 1:00, 1:30. We get to Malcolm's. I bring a little bottle of scotch and he's got some scotch there. And 4 hours later, I want to say it's 4 hours later, we're not getting drunk. We're just having a good time. And Mike Lovett, and we're just laughing our asses off because Malcolm's got the I don't know if you had him on yet, but he'd love to do your show. He's a little bored because he was the busiest guy in Hollywood for like 45 years. And so we go over there and he's telling us stories, and Mike's fascinated because he's all into the whole Hollywood thing. And I'm a huge historian for Hollywood and the studio business. I mean, that's why I came here. Historian for LA studio music, the inception of it, the changes it's gone through, and the history of it. And Malcolm's a perfect person that, I mean, you can literally interview him 5 days in a row and you wouldn't get all the stuff that he knows. Good God. And the stuff that he's played. So like this personal thing, I mean, I'm an extrovert. I don't know if you're an extrovert or introvert or medium. You know, like I literally can walk up to anyone, introduce myself, try to make a connection, like whatever they do, what's our mutual connection. And I find people fascinating. And so I'm always like peeling back these layers, trying to, you know, I mean, what we do is so specialized, right? I mean, you know, it's such a bizarre thing what we do, right? And then there's all these great people that do it in so many different ways. You know, and I try to get in the heads and try to get some information from these people from all, it's, you know, around the globe now. It's fascinating to me. Like, you know, it's good God, Louis Dodgwell. I mean, the guy looks like he's not even playing the trumpet while he's playing the trumpet. You know, and I went to London. I want to say it was the fall of 18. I used to play fanfare trumpet for the LA Chargers when they moved to LA in 17. This is a business thing that if you want to talk about in a second. LA Chargers went to London, long story short. And since I'm going, I flew on a Friday, got there on a Saturday, played a Sunday football game at Wembley Stadium and left on a Monday, right? So I know I'm there for a couple hours. I knew Stuart Brooks. He's passed on about 2 years now. I knew Stuart Brooks. I met Mike Lovett once at ITG in LA, Anaheim. And I knew composer John Altman, film composer who would split his time between LA and here. And I've worked for him many years ago. So I knew a few people, and I literally, you know, with instant messenger, I said, hey, I'm going to be in London Saturday night, Sunday night. Do you want to hang out? You know, and met Louis Doddswell in between the matinee show to the night show in that theater district they call the West End. You know, he's 25, 30 years old. And it's him. I go, Louis, come on, man, give me a pearl of wisdom. What in the world are you doing? And he's laughing. We're having a pint, more than one pint. And that conviviality between not just trumpet players, but other musicians. There's other musicians there too, string players and sax players. And it's like, what we do is so unique with people. And there's so much to be gained from talking to you, talking to a sax player, talking to a piano player, talking to an arranger, talking to a composer. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, I find it fascinating, you know.
Well, I'm with you 100% on that because, and that's a big part of why I'm, you know, doing what I'm trying to do here with the podcast.
Exactly.
Is to introduce people to others that are doing, you know, in many cases, the people that are doing the things that they would themselves love to be doing, you know. So there's, you know, probably some you know, high school or college age young trumpet player who's thinking about, you know, getting studio work or contracting or things like that. Who better to talk to than somebody who's been doing it for, you know, for decades?
Do you get comments on when people watch your YouTubes? Do you get comments on people typing in? Well, they don't ask questions in real time, but then do they comment after the fact on the videos?
Yeah, from time to time, you know, there'll be some questions or comments, and you know, so it's always good. It's good to exchange information, and we learn through experience. You know, that's that's what we learn. But yeah, I remember reading that someone saying that, you know, you the only way you can learn is through experience, but it doesn't have to be your experience that you learn from. So
that's true.
No.
You know, back in the old days, I mean, you know, it's 2023. Back in the old days, what's the old days? Oh my God. I mean, people have been playing music for hundreds of years, but the music business per se, you know, I'm a huge study of that. music business per se in America, let's say, you're talking about, wow, it's 100 years basically, even before 100 years, when the America's building itself, and all the immigrants. I'm an Italian American. I've traced back all of my ancestors, great grandparents, great greats that came here from 1895 through 1905. And so the building of this country, and then you had the influence of Western music. Orchestras being built in this country. I don't know if you read up on how most of the orchestras that were started in New York and Chicago and Philly, that's European players and European conductors that come to the New World to make more money. You could make more money in the States. And so then you have the advent of the jazz age in the 20s, and New Orleans, and the music going up the Mississippi River to Chicago and then to New York. And so the music business for 100 years, you've got all these fascinating aspects of it. And then, so the point is that there was a lot of people playing a lot of gigs and concerts together in these years for 100 years, where you would learn from sitting, like let's say it's 1929. Let's say it's 1929. It's before the stock market crash. You're at the Cotton Club in Duke Ellington's trumpet section. There's, by that time, the bands are not that big. It's usually 3 brass and 3 saxes. It's like the 2 trumpets. Fletcher Henderson stuff literally is 2 trumpets, bone, and 2 altos and a tenor, I think, or alto, 2 tenors. And let's say it's 29, and you're at that gig 7 nights a week. You're Barbara Miley, and you're playing together every night, and you're convening with people. You're eating together, drinking together, whatever they're doing for recreational, whatever. And that went on for years and years and years. And then orchestras played together, pickup bands, so it's that exchanging of information with musicians that you would get by being out there on the scene, right? And so the scene is different now, 2023, than ever before, and every town is different. Like you've been to LA before. LA is this sprawling 2-hour radius. If you put a pin in the middle of LA, which is like basically downtown LA or Hollywood, and get a string and draw a 2-hour directional arrow, you have 2 hours in a circle of the size of the community. So I think there's like 88 suburbs or something like that. So it's so sprawling. It's not like New York. Like, it's not, you can't hop on a train and go see music at Birdland and then get home by 1 o'clock in the morning. You got to drive everywhere here, and traffic sucks. And so the communities are so different and varied, but between the different cities in the U.S. Let's say Europe's got some great cities where the conviviality between musicians. Amsterdam, London's amazing, and the players there are amazing. Classical players, jazz players, commercial players. What do you call it? Berlin, and the town north in Germany where they have all the shows on the coast on the north. I mean, it's like the 3rd busiest Broadway area in the world, in the north coast of Germany. The hell's the name of it? I got a friend that works there that plays piano. He's an American guy from here, and so some of the communities are different all around the world, where you can interact with musicians. When I go to Italy, first thing I do is look up my friends that play the trumpet, and there's other people there that play different instruments, and I want to hang out with musicians in these cities. Last March, April, I played a concert in Rome with Massimo Perroni. This is a jazz trombone player. If you don't know him, if you ever go to Rome, you have a friend in Rome, via me, via everybody else. This guy plays like Carl Fontana, Frank Rosalino, Massimo Perroni. And I don't know if I ever met him here. He had come here a little bit. I don't think I ever met him here, but I know him from Facebook. And so I said, Massimo, I'm coming to Italy for 15 days. I'm on a genealogy search. I'm going to Sicily to go visit this town where the Tedescos and Militellos came from, but I'm going to be in Rome my first 4 days. Can we put something together? And I'm literally throw together a jam session. I've got my trumpet. And so he goes, let me see. And he goes to, like a week later, this is 2 weeks in advance. And this is this community thing. And he says, hey, I think I've got a concert in a small arena. It fits about 400 seats. And, you can play on some of my charts. He's got 4 or 5 vocalists. He calls his Massimo Perrone Big Fat Band, FAT. I don't know. Do you know this yet? Do you know this guy?
No.
Man. No, but he's this teddy bear of a guy. And he breaks this mold of like, an international musician, but he knows so much about the trombone and he plays so good. It's like, oh my God. So he goes, yeah, I got this place called Parco della Publica. And the date is March 31st. And can you send me some of your charts from your big band album? We'll learn some of your charts. His horn players are part-timers, but his rhythm section's full-timers. The rhythm section's great. The horn players are very good. But like, the first tenor player is a dentist, right? And the guy plays great, but between the rehearsal and the concert at night, I'm asking and I speak pretty good Italian for 25 years, and most of them speak English in Rome. And he tells me he's a dentist. I go, you're a dentist? I go, get out of here. He goes, yeah. And one of the singers is a seismologist, Monica Picconi. She's a seismologist, and I'm like. So anyways, Massimo Perrone puts together this concert. Oh God, and it's COVID. It's it's like, what is it? What year was it? It's 2 years past COVID, kind of. There's a break in the action, and there's about 250 people that show up, and they learn 3 of my charts, and I play on a bunch of their stuff, and some stuff we're just making up on the spot. So we didn't rehearse everything. And I'm trying my Italian on the audience, and they're appreciating it because they really like when you try to speak their language there. They love you getting into their culture. And like, had I never reached out to him and said, yeah, hey Massimo, do you want to just go to dinner? I literally put it out there. Let's get some, because you don't know what comes out of stuff, right? And this global community of musicians that we have, that's even smaller than ever because of the internet and globalization. It's just so fascinating. We had a blast. I had a blast. It was like a dream. Like, I said, I don't want any money. Nobody gives me any money. You guys make any money at the door, it's all your guys' money. And I'm buying you dinner, which was a great pizza dinner that we had, authentic Roman pizza. And the gal goes and gets it. I go, no. Here's the euros for the thing. She goes, no. You're our guest. You're visit. I go, no. I have made you guys leave the house in the rain and come and do my stuff. You're my guest. I got the pizza dinner, and then like lifetime experience. Like it's just so. I think it's an incredible time to do what we do, but there's many things that are not there that used to happen automatically all the time in years past.
Yeah.
It's difficult. So for a young person, you got to really try harder than ever to make things happen. I don't see things just falling on people's laps anymore. Do you?
No,
right?
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, I think it does. In some ways, but it always will. As a friend of mine was saying to me the other night, he's like, remember, fortune favors the brave. So the people that put themselves out there and make themselves open for things, those are the things that things happen for. And it's not so much like hustling. It's just. And it's not playing games. It's just being genuine. And like you said, being out there and making connections with people, like real human connection, not transactional kind of connections. It's you hook up with people because you find them interesting and you just want to be around them. And then if something comes out of it, then that's great. And if nothing more comes out of it than the fact that you had an enjoyable evening, you had some pizza, you got to play some tunes, then that's it as well. So, yeah, I think it's still going on, but I feel like we have become a little bit more jaded and transactional. There's a whole lot of what's in it for me kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which whatever. But
it's such a people business, and it's always been that, But I think it's more important than ever now because I think there's. I mean, I don't want to be, I don't want to say there's less opportunities. I want to say the opportunities are different. They're 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 diverse, and they're definitely less, but I don't want to say there's none, but they're definitely different. And some of those don't involve hanging out with people, but at the end of the day, I mean, you literally, for this hour and a half that you, or however long you want to go, you can ask me any question about trumpet playing, about musician contracting, about music business, about people business. When it comes down to it, people want to hang around with other people they like. And it's the same with the studio business. The studio business here in LA is the most, what do you call it? I don't want to say on a general basis it's fake. It's Hollywood. So how do you know Hollywood is lying to you? Oh, Hollywood's moving its mouth. So there's posing, there's jockeying for position, there's knives in the back, there's back talk, there's destroying of careers, there's creation of careers, and it's not just like actors, and it's musical stuff too. It's competitive, but nobody gets anywhere competitive wise by doing things that are underhanded, illegal. What do you call? How would you call it? Unethical. Unethical doesn't work. You eventually get found out. Illegal. I don't know what illegal is. Not genuine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you're a player, you have to back it up with some kind of playing. If you're sitting in a trumpet section for a classical thing and you're first and there's a solo, you better play that. You better play a solo. And so if it's a classical thing, I mean, God, man, there's classical trumpet players here in LA that just play classical, that play beautiful, and hopefully they're hired for the right job. The casting, and me as a trumpet player, musician contracting thing is more of a casting agent than it is a hire of musical ability.
Mm.
Okay, so, and I don't know if it's the same in different towns across the U.S. or not. I'm casting personality first and playing second. And some people might say, the hell's he talking about? If somebody plays great, he's got to get the job, right? I mean, this is a 21-year-old. Good God, this person plays a double C above everybody else, and he's the greatest trumpet player alive. Yeah, but guess what? If nobody wants to hang out with that player, he is not going to be on my job. Like in my database, and I hire everything. I didn't initially start out like, all of a sudden you hang out your shingle. I'm a contractor. I don't want to say I fell into it, but it made perfect sense because I had this music business degree. But I went to University of Miami. They used to be called music merchandising, and you studied publishing, copyright, record companies, music business companies. You studied business law, finance, accounting, all these other business classes that are straight up business classes that almost killed me as a trumpet player. Finance 351, I had to beg for a C and stay up all night to get the final to graduate. So you're a trumpet player and you're a business major. I think I'm 30 credits, 2 semesters short of a business degree, but it doesn't teach you how to music contract. You do get 1 year, your last year of working in music related subjects. And my internship to graduate was managing the second jazz band, big band, and the second band, small group. And I was booking them gigs on campus, booking them around Miami. We went to the Mobile Jazz Festival, writing grants for them, getting hotel rooms, booking itinerary. And that was the beginning of like, hey, there's a music business out there and you can make money as a music business person. So but the contracting thing, I come to LA, I drive out here history-wise for me, February 1st of 1987, which is 36 years ago, not coming out to be a music contractor at all. Trumpet player. I want to be a trumpet player in Los Angeles. My cousin was a famous studio guitar player, Tommy Tedesco. You've heard of him, right?
Of course.
Part of the Wrecking Crew, part of like, good God, I think he started doing sessions in like 1955 or 60. And he died in 97. So he probably quit 5 years. So up to 1992. So let's say it's 62 to 92. So 30 years, he's number one guitarist in Los Angeles, playing everything. TV shows, on camera. He was in the Fernwood Tonight band. I think he was in the Gong Show too. I think he was on camera in the Gong Show. And he played, his last part of his career was in movies, making his most money. And so once you realize you want to go to LA, you want to be a studio trumpet player like Tommy Tedesco is a studio guitar player. And there's nothing that prepares you for being a studio player other than you got to go start doing studio jobs. And you literally start at the free session and somebody throws a piece of music in front of you and you're like, oh, fuck. I got to sight read that, and I got to play it 18 times. I don't know if there's a preparation for it in college either. I mean, sight reading is obviously, you got to be able to sight read anything. I got stacks and stacks of music. I have stuff in binders over there, and I have 2 stacks of music that needs to go in binders because I save anything hard. I save, and I'll throw it out in front of a student. And some of it's insanity. Some of the stuff that's written now is written by somebody that just has a sequencer, a digital audio workstation, a DAW we call it, and they haven't done the study of orchestration and how to write for a trumpet classically or jazz. They're literally just, they're sequencing the piano, goes up to a high G flat, works okay in Sibelius or Finale or Muse score, so I can send this to a guy to play it, right? So there's some of that, right? Definitely some of that. So preparation for being a studio player, being a studio contractor, you're learning on the job all the time. There are things you do to prepare for this. I mean, there's rehearsal bands in Los Angeles that play jazz and big band. When the Musicians Union used to be on Vine Street in Hollywood, and it was 35 years ago, you could go there. I want to say 1, 2, there's 4 rooms that have 4 different bands at 10 o'clock on a Monday. Could be the Bill Holman Band, could be Bob Florence Band, could be Bill Berry's LA Big Band. There might have been 4 rehearsals at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Monday in LA in 1987. And there's 4 or 5 trumpet players in each one of those. And if you weren't working, you were there keeping your chops up, sight reading. Now, there's not like sight reading classical orchestras or sight reading studio orchestras, right? Those things don't exist. So, preparation for getting in the studios or preparation being a studio contractor, you literally have to be out there, like you're saying. You've got to be out there interacting with people. People need to hear you, and it's harder for classically only classical players to be heard because, you sit in an orchestra, unless there's a big solo for the trumpet. How does the trumpet player play, on Beethoven? You know what I mean? So that classical community is a little different animal to tackle. But, in 1987, you could hear Wayne Bergeron at the Musicians Union at 10 o'clock in the morning playing in the Bob Florence Big Band. I mean, so that doesn't happen now, but the preparation of things that happen now, you gotta be out there. You gotta be with people, and you gotta get along. Oh my God, I could show you how many people are no hires on each instrument for a reason. Somebody shows up late. If I got string players that literally show up 5 minutes before the downbeat, and they'll be texting me, "Hey, looking for a parking spot. Really hard today finding parking." I don't even answer those texts because I'm too busy, right? I'm inside the studio wrangling 30 other monkeys in there. I'm getting a text from a violinist, still can't find parking. Oh my God, what are you doing that you can't leave your house a half hour earlier? Because LA sucks for parking, right?
Yeah.
So it's such a people business. So why do certain players work all the time? Why do certain players not work at all? It's a psychology thing that, freelance musicians and even musicians that hold, do you ever hear these stories of like guys in a symphony section and the first trumpet player doesn't talk to the third trumpet player? Hey, tell so-and-so on third bar 44, we're going to make the first two notes longer than marked. I've heard these stories, right? How do you
Yeah.
go to work? How do you go to work and not get along with people? I find that bizarre.
Yeah. And I think that that's one of the things that so few people get is that, your talent, your abilities. Yeah, absolutely. You need to be able to do stuff. But no matter how great you are, if you're an ass, nobody wants to work with you. And there's just there comes a point where that bites you in the butt. And you have to, and like you're saying, if you have to make a decision between, two players and one is, arguably better than the other, but it's just a major pain to work with. And the other person's competent, not saying that they suck, but they're competent. That they can cut the part. Why not go with the person who's going to make the job that much easier? Who's not going to complain if you've got to do, two more takes or something like that. It's not going to be a prima donna. So, I mean, I've always made that kind of like my mantra. I learned that from my high school band director, who's a trumpet player, and I used to play in like big bands and concert bands and stuff with him and a lot of the older cats in the city I was living in. And the lessons that I learned from them about playing had little to do about playing. It was about how to conduct yourself on a gig. Show up early, like the whole to be early is to be on time, to be on time is to be late. So getting that ingrained and follow the conductor and be pleasant and all that sort of thing. And that's gone a long way for helping me in my career because it just, people want to work with you.
It comes down to you're either an asset or you're a liability. And so an asset means what do you call it, the whole combination, the 100% of you, cover the job, the job etiquette for sure. Oh my God, even on live jobs, because I still play live jobs. And I do a lot of 20s, 30s, and 40s with small groups, 4-piece to 6-piece, doing Dixieland or Gatsby, New Orleans stuff all the time. Love the fact that I never gave up on that era, and play first in a band that just does 20s, and some of that Fletcher Henderson stuff is the hardest stuff you'll ever play. And there's mute changes, and there's and no rests, and you cut your teeth on that stuff. But when I'm hiring people for any setting, because I do UCLA extension film scoring classes, and they don't pay a lot of money. They pay $50 an hour, but it's a union gig. You could do one of these and it puts you over your health insurance plateau for the next year. You make X amount of dollars, 12% of wages, you get a health insurance bump in your health insurance bank. You make X amount total wages, it gets you health insurance for the next year. So I have people that do these little jobs for me, and I'll say, "You sure you want to do it? It's $150 for 3 hours." They go, "Yeah, man, I'm doing it for health insurance, man. We love you." So the love you put out is the love you get back, and so it's what do we call it? I mean, I'm hiring people first. I'm hiring musicians second. It's the whole combination. It's the camaraderie on the gig at this point. I mean, like if you're talking to a 32-year-old, you're going to get a different opinion. What the hell's going on? At this point in my career, 35 years, 36 years later in LA, I want to go have fun, regardless if it's classical, jazz, rock, funk, a pop band, a 20s band. Good God, what did I hire the other day that was so bizarre? I can't remember. I have to look in my Quicken because I log everything in my Quicken. Oh, yesterday. My job yesterday, I'm in the studio here in my garage. I built the room 16 years ago myself, been in Pro Tools for 18 years. I started in the house. We had the second kid. My wife says, "You need to go in the garage and make a studio in the garage." I said, "Can I have the whole garage?" She says, "No." you can have this area. And so I got this area. I actually need a bigger space. But so yesterday, my job was recording the singer that's on my jazz CD, Living the Dream, Tony Galla, who's a compadre from Buffalo, New York, 36 years. He's since moved up to Boise, Idaho, but he still comes down for work. So he happens to be here for 3 weeks. 4 days ago, I get a request because I'm that guy. Chris, this is Brad Maripodi from BMG. I need to record a guy singing Italian on Hall & Oates, the Dream song, Dreams. What the hell's the thing? The dreams come true. You make my dreams come true. So they get a guy to do a scratch Italian vocal, which the guy wasn't bad. I don't know where they got him. And the guy translates and he sings a scratch Italian vocal. And this guy, Brad, says, hey, we need a real singer. I go, well, I got this guy, he sings a lot of Italian. He doesn't speak Italian, but I speak Italian. I can coach him on the words. He's actually going to be in town. He's coming in town on Thursday. He's playing a gig on Friday. And he's in town filming a Christian. He's filming The Passion of Christ. I go, Tony Galla's the perfect guy. Send me the track. I'm in Pro Tools, right? Send me the track. It's Hall & Oates in the key of F. You make my dreams come, but it's in Italian and it's comedy, but it's high. He's a tenor. It's high. He's hovering on high, his Fs and the fifth above it. So that was my gig. My gig yesterday was charging $100 an hour, 3-hour minimum to be a recording engineer, Pro Tools guy for the Italian sharpshooter. Brad Maripodi's in LA somewhere. His client is in New Jersey. His name is Scott Stallone. And they just have a job. They need to record Hall & Oates in Italian. And they found their people. They're zooming in with me. 2.5 hours later, we get what we need to get. We're punching in and out, and that's my gig yesterday. I'm going to invoice for myself for $300. I did not leave my garage. Is that music business? Yes, it is. Right. So, that's a pretty bizarre request. Right. And I don't expect everybody to be me. Here's the one thing that you got to know, as you know yourself. Everybody's unique. Everybody's got different needs. Everybody's got different desires of what they want to do, regardless of what kind of player they are. Trumpet players, we have a category. We have categories of ways of music where the trumpet ends up in music. And what do you want to be as a trumpet player where you are, right? And, if one type of music you don't dig at all, then you shouldn't be pursuing that at all, because when you go and play a gig or a session of that stuff, if you're miserable there, you're missing the meaning of life. For me, I love different styles. Always classically based. Always. When I went to UMiami, I studied with Gil Johnson, the former principal trumpet player in the Philadelphia Orchestra from 58 to 75. And I went to Miami to get out of the snow from Fredonia. I actually was a jazz major my first semester there, and I hurt my lip in marching band. Everybody had to do marching band their first year at UMiami. And I'm trying to be a hot dog, and it's hot and it's sweaty out. And then I didn't cut my lip, but I altered the shape of my lip. I got this shape of my lip in the front that I was not born with, right? And it's not a cyst. It's not like anything hard. It's just a reshape of that lip because I was like moving when it's 95 degrees in Miami in August and you're marching, that mouthpiece is sliding all over your face and you're making adjustments and you're hot dogging it. You're trying to play high like the rest of the guys. First semester in Miami, I go, ouch, that hurt. And I look and I go, no blood. Boy, but that's like a fat lip. That fat lip never went away. I had to readjust my playing. And then I had my 4 wisdom teeth taken out the first semester of Miami. They were growing in sideways, all 4 this way. Top up this way. No, all 4 of mine are growing this way. So I don't think I had an embouchure for about a year, but I still have to play and get through. You still have to play and get through college. So you get the notes out and, people don't really notice that you're struggling. I probably quit 10 times, That's a whole nother story coming up. Embouchure wise. But so, I always was happy being a classical trumpet player, studying classical, doing etudes, doing excerpts, studying the classical foundation, which to this day, if you're any kind of player, you still have to have a classical foundation to your trumpet playing, because that's your building blocks, your cinder blocks, your concrete foundation to your overall chop health is how to play the trumpet correctly. So I don't want to say I get bored doing the same thing all the time, but I love the different styles and the challenge of it. And then if I'm going to an orchestra gig and I'm playing the C trumpet on the wall, if when I go to do church gigs, I bring my C trumpet and force myself, unless there's a piccolo trumpet thing, like a Handel thing, or a Hallelujah chorus, or something that's something that requires a piccolo trumpet in D. I'm forcing myself to be that C trumpet player because that's the sound. There's going to be other guys there in the orchestra for church. They're not B flat trumpet players. They're C trumpet players. They're not going to vibe you because you got your B flat, but you want to be part of that team for that classical pickup gig, So every job title I get, I'm immersing myself as that person doing that. So, but that not necessarily works for everybody. You have some people that are just lead players, just jazz players, just classical, just Dixieland, just rock and roll, rock and roll, funk, and R&B, So what works for you? What makes you the happiest? I need to be kept busy. My buddy in Milan, Andrea Giuffretti, I saw him at the end of my trip. First part of the trip playing in Rome. I got my trumpet. I whipped out my trumpet everywhere I went. I sat in with an opera singer in Florence. This guy's got a boombox, Bluetooth. Guy's from Russia. He left Russia before the Ukrainian bombings. He said, he's in Florence. He's studying to become a tenor instead of a baritone. And he's singing O Sole Mio in the streets of Florence. I say, hey man, what key are you in? He goes, I'm an F. I go, cool. He puts on the track. I play the intro. I'm filling, and then we're going back and forth, and they're throwing euros at him. And I got video of it and me in the streets of Florence with this guy Misha. It was so much fun. So like I'm on WhatsApp with him now. He says, when are you coming back to Florence? The guy makes 500 euro a day in the streets of Florence when it's not raining, singing opera, right? So you take that trumpet everywhere with you. It's on your back. It's it's the smallest instrument like you can bring around and play. So my buddy in Milan nicknames me the scoiattolo, which in Italian means squirrel. He goes, Cristoforo, tu scoiattolo. He goes, that means you're a squirrel. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, you never stop. I go, yeah, it's like a squirrel gathering nuts. Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. And this guy, Andrea, is great. Right? He plays the trumpet like nobody else, classical and beautiful. So he literally can fall asleep waiting for a bus on a bus stop. So I nicknamed him the Tartuaga, which is turtle in Italian. He's the turtle. I'm the squirrel.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Can you tell?
Yeah. Well,
pretty obvious, right?
Pretty obvious. Well, what's kind of interesting to me is, like you're saying, everybody's you got to find your lane. You got to find your passions and things like that. And I'm really big on the power of the words that we use. And there's a saying, every time you open your mouth, you let others look into your mind. I like that. Yeah. So
every time you open your mouth, others look into your mind. Aha, love it.
So when people are disappointed with their career, and when I do because I do coaching and consulting with people, and that's one of the big ones is like feeling unfulfilled in their lives, and it's like, well, what is your objective? What do you define success as? And sometimes it's a matter of reframing it, and sometimes it's helping people to see that what they're saying and what they think they're saying are two different things.
Yeah.
So, if someone says to me, I want to be a musician. Well, what does it mean to be a musician? I want to make a living, being a musician. Okay, well, there are lots of ways that you can make a living in the music business. But what are you narrowly defining yourself? Is that you can only be a trumpet player, and if you can only be a trumpet player, that you can only play orchestral gigs, or you can only play, studio gigs? So let's get into what it makes, what you're actually defining that success as. So I think that's one of the reasons I really enjoy listening to you talk about your work as a contractor, because that's something that a lot of times people just don't even think about that as being a job or a way that you can make a living. And not only it's not like a job like flipping burgers, it's something where you're actually intimately involved in the process of making music. Because if you if you don't get the right people, the project isn't going to go as well as it could. If you get the right people, you can go back and go, I helped to make that happen.
Yeah.
So,
there's like the contracting thing. The first, I'm here for about 6 months, and a friend of mine from high school is in the aerospace business. He was a trumpet player in high school with me, but he went to an engineering school in the state of New York, and he ended up out here like working for McDonnell Douglas, and he's like a special materials engineer. So I knew he was here, down in the beach cities south of the airport. And, you contact anybody from your hometown and say, hey, I'm in town. You want to hang out, go have a drink or something like that. He wasn't playing trumpet, but he's working at this company. And about 6 months after being here, he goes, hey, you got a music business degree. I need like a 5 or 6 piece band for a McDonnell Douglas. We're doing a special event, and it's a party. We want background music for dinner, and then we want to let our hair down and dance. And this is in '87. He goes, players and stuff. You got a music business degree. Do you want to put a band together for this party? And I go, well, you say yes, right? You say yes, and you book a drummer and a piano player, and I booked Tony Gallo, the singer. I met him my first 2 months of job, starting to do casuals. Those are the easiest jobs to get when you come to a town. They're called general business in Boston. They're called club dates in New York. They're jobbing dates in Toronto. I think in Chicago they're called jobbing dates. They're called casuals out here. And the easiest job to get is somebody calling you just to be part of a band, to put together a band. There's more set bands than ever out here now, which is different in the casual arena. So I put this band together: piano, bass, drums, guitar, maybe a female vocal, and trumpet and sax. So let's say 5-7 pieces. And I go, wow, well, yeah, I've done this before. I did it in college. And then, oh my God, that's my text sound. I don't know how to get rid of that. I don't know did you hear the duck quacking?
I did not.
Okay, so yeah, my text sound is a duck. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So that thing goes off. So then, like, literally, you pull it off. People are happy. They're dancing. You're playing anything. You're playing swing to James Brown. And you go, holy shit. And the guys make, back then, I don't know what gigs paid, like $100 for 4 hours. And if you drove, it was $150. So the guys make $150. I probably make $300. So you make double as a contractor. You can make even more. There's instances where I make far more than double. It depends on how much pre-time I do. Right. And so the contracting thing now, it's not just live. It's so my first recording session is probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years after being here. And a friend of mine, composer, says, hey, I'm doing a mini big band project that it's kind of like redoing Escobar stuff, and I need a guy that's got a double A. So I hire Wayne Bergeron, because I don't play double A's on trumpet. My range stops before that. So and it's literally like 2 trumpets, 2 bones, 3 saxes, rhythm section, and now it's a recording session. And I've been here working 5 years, and the top guys, because you're going to be playing with these guys in LA, and there's some scary mofos in LA that play their instruments like they're on fire, and so you eventually do meet all these people. And can you hire them? Of course you can. If the job pays enough, they're going to take the job. If it's a union gig at scale, some guys say, hey, I'm 2 times scale. Can you still hire me? And I say, all I can do is ask the client. If the client shares the same thing I share, if I want you there, I tell the client, I go, you need to pay double for this guy. This guy's the best guy on lead trumpet. I want him next to me. Here's what it costs. Now, at what is it? Let's say it's 30 years later, contracting sessions. now I just tell people what it costs. And I say, this is what it costs if you want this done the right way. You want my advice, and it's learn on the job, learn the people that I think playing contractors are the best contractors in Los Angeles. There's a few people that played instruments when they went to college, and then maybe they went into the contracting business because it was in their family business. They're on the sessions and they can hear players and you can hear excellence, but if you're not sitting in the section and, like there could be a trumpet section. I mean, there's a trumpet player here in town that I hope I never work with again, because the guy just does not play in tune. And I have no idea why he still gets hired, not for sessions so much. Every now and then he'll show up on a session, and he's a big talker too. And that goes along that other part of we're talking about, like, are you genuine, or are you the guy always trying to get points by talking and like name dropping? And I used to play with so and so, but I played one job with this trumpet player, and it had been a long time because I literally can pick and choose, not because I'm rich, it's because mentally there's stuff I don't want to do, because if I do something and it depresses me, it's going to make me, go down a rabbit hole. So this trumpet player I hadn't played with in a long time, and it was 2 trumpets on this mini big band job. And by the end of the night, my chops are wrecked. Not so much by trying to adjust to be playing in tune with them, just because you think you're a good trumpet player, and then I'm scratching my head going, oh my God, he's sharp up top, he's flat down below. If we have a unison together, it's like sandpaper on my ears. And end of the night, my chops are like this. Arr! And it takes a day to kind of find, and I'm a big proponent of the stamp, method that I got from Malcolm McNabb. God bless Malcolm McNabb. When I was getting married 26 years ago, I was going through, like, us trumpet players, we got problems with teeth. Teeth move, lips change, embouchures change. You're very lucky if you've never been through an embouchure change. But so I see McNabb on a session. I'm playing third, he's playing first. I go, man, my chops feel like shit. Every 5 years you go through this stuff, whatever. And he goes, well, you sound okay. He goes, if it doesn't feel right, then you're not doing something right. Don't quit. You got like too many years into this already. Come over. And he showed me stamp for 6 months. And I'm a huge proponent of stamp for playing the trumpet correctly from pedal tones up to where you need to go. Now, you're never going to have to play a pedal tone and then pop out a high F concert in the same measure. I'm not saying that's what that prepares you for. It's just is a very controlled and relaxed way to learn how to play, by not changing your embouchure that much and not straining when you go to the high register. The pedal register trains your lips to not strain when you go high, so you don't get beat up when you play something really high and strenuous. Because, everybody's got to be a lead player out here, because they'll, when you would do these rehearsal bands at the Union, and they're starting up again, 1, 2, 3, 4 trumpets, and that first trumpet player will play 4 in a row. And Rick Baptist was really good about this on sessions and stuff. Like, after 4 tunes, that chart, that's the next lead chart, it gets passed down. And if you're on 4 trumpet, you're going to have to play some lead regardless. And so when I moved here, I found out, everybody's got to play some lead here in town, because everybody needs a little break, every now and then. Like, they might look at something and say, this is an easier lead one, why don't you take this one? And so so the thing with the trumpet player, where I played a big band casualty in the summer, and it paid good. Like, I took the guy, hey, do you want to do this gig? It's at the Nixon Library, pays $450. Yeah, that sounds good. I didn't ask who's on it. You got to ask who's on it. This casting thing, this contracting casting thing, who's on it? And if you control it, it's a beautiful thing, man, right? And when you can't control it, it was like, oh no. So then another gig came up with the same gal who's a singer that was contracting another small big band casualty, paid good. And I did I lied. And, I'm not going to tell somebody the truth. Like, hey, I don't want to play with your trumpet player because he sucks. Because then you can't school somebody on their choice of who they pick. They somehow think that this guy's okay. And you know what? and I had to talk with the sax player after the gig. And I go, did you hear what I heard? He goes, oh yeah, I'm sitting right in front of it. And he goes, it's an amazing thing to this day how bad it is. I go, yeah, my chops feel like somebody put them through a blender. And so, but it's not my place to like say, hey, because I'm not her boss, right? Like if she thinks this guy's great, I'm going to let her think this guy's great, but I'm going to choose to not be part of it again. Now, if I had zero amount in my bank account, would I have gone and toughed that job out? So I'm not going to tell you. I got financial advice too, like, for any new musician starting out, you could be in high school, college, or already out there working. I go, you got to read some books on financial management. Me being part of this music business thing, and that was another reason why I didn't want to go to music school, was because I didn't want to be an out of work musician at 40, 50, 60, 70. So, I thought, oh my God, and I didn't want to be a straight up orchestra classical trumpet player. I didn't want to transpose for a living. And the amount of excitement compared to the amount of counting rests didn't appeal to me. And I like jazz. So, but learning how to control your finances, if you're freelance, even if you're let's say you're a trumpet player in an orchestra in the country, and you're getting pension paid on the job and health insurance, and you're getting a wage, you still got to plan for the times of lean times, and so financial management, I've been paying my own IRA since I was 32. I'm going to say about 32 years old. So let's say for 30 years. You start off with $10,000 and your dollar cost average every month, which means you act like that's a bill every month, and you max out your IRA yourself. And if you can afford it, you've got to, you're going to get Social Security. If you have a pension from a college, you've got to prepare for your later days of having some kind of money coming back to you. And as a young player, a lot of people don't think of that. So as you get a little bit, and everybody's different. Some people have spent all their money on a medical procedure and they're building back from zero. I'm very lucky and blessed to be able to do what I do still to this day. I mean, have I defied the odds? I've probably defied the playing odds because I came back from having a damaged lip. I mean, I literally have, oh my God, is there times I was in tears? Oh God, throwing trumpets. I don't know if I ever threw a trumpet, but I zeroed in on that stamp stuff, and it works for me tremendously. Now, everybody's different. Some people just do the routine from, what's the guy in Indiana? Bill Adams. Some people just do Bill Adams. Some people just do, the James Thompson buzzing book. So everybody's face is different. Everybody's teeth are different. Different things work for different people. But the more I found that I changed warm-ups and workouts, the more confused my lips became, because your lips actually want continuity on a daily basis. Jose, you know what works for me? If I play hard one day and I see the next day in my calendar, wherever it is, I still use a date book because I like to do pencil, and then I do my phone too. If I have something, today's Tuesday, right? Tuesday. So yesterday I recorded Tony Gala, and I did do stamp for about an hour, and I make sure if don't have anything to record here, that I'm going to get to my level of I feel like I worked out pretty good, and I'll do stamp up to high F concert and do some tonguing up there, and always end up on pedal, loosening up a little bit, so today I technically don't need to play trumpet myself because I'm a huge fan, and I started this years ago, of strenuous day, next day off, letting those muscles rest. Now, I know some people that cannot do that. I know a guy, freelance trumpet player, goes, oh my God, no, I can't do that. If I literally don't play every day and I take off that one day and then I come back that day afterwards, he goes, I can't even start a note. And I'm going, oh my God. So like everybody's different, right? So chop wise, you got to figure out what the hell works for you, and music wise, what the hell works for you, and contracting wise, what in the world works for you. Like one of my least favorite activities now is hiring string players. And it goes back to when I was in the beginning of my talk, where I didn't want to go to music school to be around string players because they are batshit crazy. Here's a good example how to get fired off of somebody's we call them lists, contracting lists. Session in December. It's a UCLA extension recording session. It's on a Sunday afternoon. Oh, it's like 2:00. And it's like the first Sunday in December, maybe the second Sunday. It's busy. There's concerts, Christmas concerts all over the place. I get a cello player, and it was a 10-1, 2-5, double session. Pays what it pays. If you're open, take it. It's better than zero. You get to see you get to see other players. You get to get some challenge. These film scoring classes are challenging because it's woodwind, strings, brass, and percussion. And these students literally are learning how to write, and they will write you something to see if you can play it because they're learning. They don't know. So anyways, cello player says, hey, I can do the morning, but I can't do the afternoon. And I say, well, I want you to do both. I don't want to go through on my contract listing 2 cellos and one's only for 3 hours, the other one's for 3 hours. I go, much easier for me as a contractor. It's all or none. I don't want to be a dick about it, but like I'd rather you do all 6 hours because you make more money. I don't want you to do just the morning. So he says, okay, I'll fix it. So he gets back to me like the next day in a text. Okay, I'm yours all day. Swear to God. 2 weeks later, we do, let's say it's December 4th, 10 a.m. This guy's there. We go to lunch for an hour. I come back. There's a gal sitting in his seat. And I go, oh, I thought he wasn't going to do that. Maybe I got my emails wrong. Maybe I got my text wrong. So I look at my email, and I'm playing on the session, right? So I'm looking through my emails. I'm like, and so, I don't, I'm happy there's a body there playing cello, and she's very good. And I know her. And I'm okay with people I don't know as long as the person sending that other person has sent me a badass player, right? I'm fine with meeting new people all the time. So I know this gal, and I go, man, I'm so glad you're here. I thought he was doing the whole thing. Yeah. So then, like, I'm getting a text for him. Hey, you're probably noticing I'm not there. I got a text last night to do a record date. I'm making up cello parts. And I had to take it. I couldn't turn it down. And I know that's a freaking lie. Okay. There's no pop artist asking you to make up cello lines the night before. And so literally he did the very thing that I didn't want him to do. I just said, man, I don't want to split it up. And he did the very thing because he was going to do a concert. I don't know if it was, I never hold anybody to making more money. Like, in other words, let's say, Jose, let's say I book you for something, and I go, yeah, the gig's $300. It's a big band casualty, and you're out here, and it's a Friday night. It's 3 hours. It's not the greatest pay because a lot of times gigs out here pay $125 an hour for a live gig. You can make $500 on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Jose, it's $300. It'll be a good gig. We got some good players, and let's say the day before you say, hey, Chris, I got a $500 full rate 4-hour casualty. I want to go make 5. Can I bail out of the 3? I go, yeah, bail out and take me with you to make that 5. Because you as a contractor, I'm the easiest guy going. I go, absolutely. I need to get me a good sub. You own the job. If you book my job, you own my job. You are now responsible for helping me with the sub or booking your sub. So this guy, he creates the mortal sin of sideman and dumb shit. And so I am not going to hire this guy for quite some time. And if he hits me up by email, hey man, just checking in with you. Happy New Year. If you got anything, swear to God, he's that stupid. He literally did exactly what I wanted him not to do. And you want to talk about, like career suicide. I'm not making or breaking anybody's career, But you talk about things to do and not do. Are you an asset on a gig, a liability on a gig? Have you studied how to be a freelance musician in the town that you're in?
Yeah.
You know, in some smaller towns, you might, in a bigger town like this, you get many chances, right? Smaller towns, you don't get a lot of chances.
No. Very, very closed circuit. So
yeah. So what kind of gig? What the gig you're doing in East? You're in Eastern Pennsylvania, right?
Right.
So you're doing everything from soup to nuts, club dates and jazz gigs and big band gigs and funk gigs and horn section stuff.
Primarily just horn section stuff with a few other little commercial hits or recording things. And
yeah, so then do you see the same people on most of your jobs in your horn? Do you have a horn section that you call the guys and it's always the same core of guys?
I have one that I put together, and then there's others where, I mean, there are a number of gigs that I've gotten because one of the more top call guys in the area, when he can't make a gig, then I become the person he calls looking for a sub, because there's not commercial lead players in our area. So it's like, if he can't do it, here Jose could do it. I trust him.
Yeah, and that referral thing, like, why do you want to be that guy, that cello player? Everybody in the studio knows, like, they're looking like, oh, Chris is going to get pissed. I'm like, I'm not going to get pissed. It's a drag. But there's 22 other musicians in the studio looking over at that chair, and it's a different person. They're like, and they're looking at me going, yep, he fucked up. So, I mean, that your word of mouth, good God, it's number one on the top of the list. Do you have positive word of mouth, playing wise, human wise, delivering the goods wise, what else, hang wise, like the three or four fold thing. I have a criteria when I hire people, it's fourfold, but like, your word of mouth is the most precious asset as a freelance musician anywhere in the world. Your positive word of mouth. Now, when you go to a gig and you mess up playing wise, I still don't have the perfect live performance. And recording wise, since multi-track recording and digital recording, it's a beautiful thing to be able to fix yourself. And if you record by yourself, I don't send anybody anything but perfect tracks. And I'm not like auto-tuning tracks, right? Mm-hmm. I'm forcing myself with a tuner on the horn or the tuner on the stand. I'm forcing myself to get as close as possible to a perfect performance, so I don't have to sit in front of Pro Tools and like fix stuff, right?
Right.
So your word of mouth in the marketplace, wherever you live, is the most precious asset. And I don't know if that sounds like it's cheesy or not as an older guy. And if there's a younger guy watching this, you're stupid when you're young. Like I said, that story about the Glenn Miller band, like, so, good God, what could be more important than getting a good referral, like 100% referral? Like, yeah, he's great. Good hang, great player. You'll have no problem with him. You literally, that's your goal for your lifetime as a musician. You hear these stories like, let's say it's a famous violinist, in front of an orchestra, solo violinist, world renowned. And then a moniker will come with that player. Not I'm not pointing anybody out specifically, but there might be a moniker that comes with that player, like, oh yeah, if you hire him, you got some babysitting to do while he comes to town because he likes to drink a lot. Like, you got make sure he shows up to rehearsal because he might be at the nearest pub. Or that person loves to get down on the orchestra if they don't play the part perfectly in the first run through. That person loves to beat up brass players if they don't play his backing stuff. So, like, these things come with people, and they're not untrue. They're not like made up, right?
Right.
So I can't figure out why anybody wants something negative to be attached to their name. And that's contracting, man, right? Contracting 101. Holy moly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like
like they say, common sense is not always common practice. So there is that too.
Yeah.
All right, well, man, we could go on this stuff for forever and ever, but I have 4 segments we got to get through before we can wrap up today.
Oh geez. Oh, no, wait, I saw these on the other thing, and I tried to prepare myself, but I wrote them down. Wait a second, but I didn't really write down. I didn't write down answers, because some of these are hard.
Well, we're going to start with our first segment, which is our newest segment, this. Yeah. So you might not have seen this one.
Oh,
this is called Go Practice. And Go Practice is brought to us by Brian Davis of Airflow Music. Great online resources for warm-up practice tips, things like that. So some really great stuff. So make sure you check out Brian's Airflow Music channel on YouTube. Nice. And this is about practice. And basically what this is kind of morphed into is a keep it or cut it kind of concept. So, when you have a busy day, you like you're saying, you might have a busy day where you've got plenty of sessions to do, and you don't have a whole lot of time to practice.
Yeah.
What are the things that you consider to be like the essential parts of your practice, the things you got to do every day? And what are the things that you feel like, okay, well, these are kind of the luxury. This is the icing on the cake if I have more time to get to it.
Yeah, it depends where you're at in your playing career. Like, I don't want to say like I'm an old guy now, but God, I sound like an old guy. I think yesterday was Wayne Bergeron's birthday. I think he's 65. I'm 62. You'd never think you're going to get this age, right? So as things get older, it should get easier for you. And God bless Malcolm McNabb. The Jimmy Stamp stuff is a lifesaver for me. And because I've been doing it for 25 years, and you got to do it the right way. There's people, you'll hear that da dee da da dee da da. That is wrong. It's wrong. And Stamp made these exercises that are their takeoffs on Schlossberg, right? Da da da. I don't know if it's a B flat or not. And so, like, literally, Stamp would say that players would telegraph loosen up too much for going low, and then they would tighten too much for going high. So he put in this whole step, da dee da da dee da, and those half notes in there keep the air moving forward. And he said that air moving forward would prevent people from loosening going down. So Stamp for me, like, there are times if I can get I have a condensed stamp that I do. If it's a short amount of time and I haven't left enough time driving and I get to a place, I have a condensed stamp here. If I pick out my stamp book, my stamp book is the old green one, and it's tattered. Literally, the thing's falling apart. And I think it takes me about an hour if I pick out the exercises that were shown to me to do them the right way. Metronome on 66. And Lord above, I did that yesterday. Don't need to play today. For sure, for me, Stamp works great. My trumpet is. Now, some people do. I don't know. I always start with the air. Oh wow! So you want to talk about philosophy of trumpet? This trumpet doesn't work unless you put it up to your lips and make that circle close. Make that circle close on your lips, right? And so you have some people that buzz their mouthpiece in the car on the way to the gig. Buzzing the mouthpiece does not work for me. Works for McNabb on the first Stamp exercise 3. He'll do the whole thing, right hand on the piano, left hand holding the mouthpiece, and he'll buzz that whole exercise first. It takes forever. That takes a half hour by itself. It doesn't work for me. And then I went to a physics of music class and gave a few talks, like a couple years in a row. There was a teacher out in Camarillo, and it was a physics of music, and he brought me in. I got a referral from a sax guy that teaches there. He says, call this guy Chris, because I also play valve trombone and I play B flat French horn. And he said, bring each one of your instruments. I want you to demonstrate to his non-music majors how a brass instrument works, and then stop me if I'm going too long. So he's interested in me, and I'm interested in him. He already knows this stuff. I don't know if he ever had a brass player come in. And so he says, "Put the trumpet up to your lips and play me something." He goes, I mean, I have a soft tone. It's Ira Nepus soft tone mute on the thing. A lot of times I use the classic one from New Zealand too, the shush mute too. Sometimes I don't like it in my bell. But so the guy tells me how the damn trumpet works. I mean, are you into the physics of how this thing works?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, if the mouthpiece feels good on your face, you got about 90% there of being able to play something, right? Some people are more natural than others. I haven't played a note yet. So the first thing I do, I free buzz. I do not buzz the mouthpiece because I don't know. I buzz the mouthpiece for 15 minutes. It messes me up. I don't know what you do. Once again, it's like whatever works for you. So I don't have a note. And I have a huge overbite, and you can see my lips the way they are. I think that's a low C. I got the mute on. Should be okay because the microphone's on the other side. Yeah, it's pretty good. B-flat concert. Right? So, and that's literally, I don't know if you do this all yourself and if you've ever tried it, but it literally just tells your lips like, uh-oh, something's coming up, right?
Right.
And then you can feel the vibration and it gets warm and a little tingly. And then there's in the beginning a stamp is, I literally don't even go up to that second line G because I've got an overbite. My top lip hangs over. I can't buzz that high. I can barely buzz a third space C, but that's not the point of it. So I do a lot of just one da 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 da. And sometimes that is my only warm up. Okay. But now I'm 25 years into stamp. So if somebody came to me and said, "Hey man, I'm all screwed up. Where do I start?" Sometimes that free buzz doesn't work for them, right? Yeah. Sometimes the mouthpiece works for them. So then the next thing is I do an air attack on a low C or a second line G. So right now I find my ring, and it feels better to find that ring than not playing anything, right? Okay, so then you feel what happens. You start with air, and then your lips come together to make that buzzing. And so, damaging my lips years ago, and gone through numerous embouchure changes until stamp, I come to the realization that if air is going to go past your top lip, even if somebody has stepped on your face, if it's not so swollen, you can get that lip in the mouthpiece, and there's air that passes past that lip, and it makes it vibrate like a piece of paper, like a reed, or if you blow air past paper, it makes that air vibrate. If you have air going past your top lip, you are going to get a sound. And if you sign off on, man, my chop, I literally do not think about how my chops feel in order to be able to get through strenuous days, tough things. I literally divorce. Oh my God, I'm not warmed up today. I'm not warm enough to be able to play this chromatic run, or, I can show you music that'll make your hair fall off your head like it has done mine. I don't focus on whether or not my lips feel good enough to play something. I have moved past my lips feel like shit, I can't play. No, because when you put that up to your face and you close that on your lips, you have now physically made those lips vibrate. The only thing they can do is vibrate in there. And so check this out. I don't know. Am I boring you, or is this good?
No.
Okay. Check this out. So all the proponents of people that buzz their mouthpiece like crazy, check this out if you can see this, because I show every one of my students this. and I pulled that away as fast as I can. So guess what stops when you obviously when you pull the mouthpiece off, you're not gonna have a sound anymore. But technically, for the buzzers of the mouthpiece, that and the horn does work with the vibration. But I actually don't think your lips are buzzing that second line G. I don't think they're buzzing that second line G while you're playing it. I think the air going past your lip and the horn, the sound wave goes down the horn, hits the bell, and comes back and hits your face. So when you break that contact with your face, it stops. I literally do not think that second line G is buzzing on your chop. Because I pull it away, you'd still hear me buzzing that G if I pull it away, right? I mean, it's so instantaneous that my lips should still be buzzing that second line G. So I've signed off on like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. My chops are not vibrating. And so literally air in that mouthpiece, closed circle, vibration going through the horn. And I yank that sucker off just like that. Any kind of air going past that top lip, you got a vibration, you got a trumpet sound.
Yeah.
And it just depends on how much, what do you call it, pressure, and how much pressure you're putting on your face and what. So the physical aspects of it, I know they can be daunting for young players. Like, I've got this, some players have a half-hour warm-up. Do you know that little bit of buzzing and that second line G? My lips, I don't want to tell you I'm Superman. I'm not Superman. I have it to a point that I can play right now and not be freaked out that I didn't spend a half hour warming up on a gig or session. There are times when literally I just play that air attack on that second line G and that's it. And because they're just, I'm sometimes I get lazy. I just get in the car, man, and I just buzz my lips, and that's a personal, So what do I lose? For sure, stamp any amount before a gig or session. Here in the studio, a lot of times I print the music and I just do a couple minutes. And I'm like, man, this guy needs this thing by 1 o'clock. I got to do this. And then if I'm out somewhere else, the luxury is, anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. Lip bends. I love lip bends. I don't know if you ever do lip bends, but man, they are gold for me.
Yeah.
Are they gold for you?
They're gold for me too, man. Absolutely.
And a lot of people have never done them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back when trumpets were natural trumpets, you had to make a lot of notes without using any, I think even before holes, so it's that lip vibration thing again. So I hope that answers the first question.
It does. All right. Well, let's move on to our next segment. And so our next segment is brought to us by Michael Barkley of Barkley Microphones. And then you have
I got one right there. I got a Michael Barkley, man. They're really good.
Great.
And I use it on other instruments, not just trumpet. It sounds amazing on a cello.
Oh, wow.
Mike. Oh my God. Yeah.
There you go. There's a ringing.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. All right. So this is called Sound Off, and Sound Off is about approach to sound. And let's actually look at this from your perspective as a contractor. So when you're looking to hire a trumpet player for a session, in terms of their sound, what are the things that you would want to hear in the sound of a trumpet player to make them more of a marketable or usable resource?
Yeah, so I mean, sound for a trumpet player, regardless if it's jazz, rock, classical, or whatever, you've got to have a sound that's not raspy to the ear, pleasing, like I'm not a huge fan of super high. It's so piercing, and I don't practice as much high notes as I should. I use different underparts for my work. I have a Reeves ES, and he dug it down for me a little bit because I was bottoming out on his stock ES. I have a Marcinkiewicz rim that I thread to underparts to be that player for that type of music. And if I showed you my non-plated ES custom, you'd go, how in the world do you get anything through that throat and that cup? It's almost like a double cup. So sound-wise, that's not going to be my greatest sound. I'm not going to use that on a classical film score trying to play, trying to do like a Malcolm McNabb type solo. So sound for us trumpet players, from the first air, you have to know what a good sound is. I was mentioning this trumpet player in the summer. This guy's sound, he's using a shallow mouthpiece because he needs a shallow mouthpiece to do what he does. Now, I'm a huge fan of practicing on I use a loud 3C underpart back when it was called loud. Now it's called Steve Patrick. I use a loud 3C underpart, and Rick Baptist hit me to that. And I use a Marcinkiewicz 300 rim, which is like a 3C, but it's got a softer bite to it, and it's the only thing I can play since 1988. And I have 3 of them, right? So you've got to have a concept in your sound. You need a cup for a decent sound. Now that cup is not going to work for an Earth, Wind, and Fire type gig because the compression's not there. Unless you're a freakish player, your compression's not there. You're not going to make it through the gig on a 3C on a gig like that. So you sacrifice a little sound for range. But at the core of your trumpet playing sound, it has to emulate from having a natural vibration. I don't know if you can hear it on the iPad. I always try to be like, if I'm starting the day, I could have some fuzzies in the sound. There are some fuzzies in everybody's sound. I've heard it in everybody's. It's called meat. We have meat here. So the original concept of what a good trumpet sound is, you have to have listened to it, and you have to have a large enough cup to be able to realize, because the more cup you have, the more room your lips have to be able to vibrate, that vibration again, the greater your sound is, and then also use that as a gauge for the type of music we're doing. Classical wise, different animal. You've got to just have that beautiful sound, and obviously a classical player is not going to use a shallow mouthpiece anyways. On the pop thing, it's a little iffier. Sometimes you're hiring somebody because they have range abilities, and they're not going to get hired to play in the low register. So I think most guys are going to tell you, even Louis Doswell, he says, unless you're a freak of nature, your 3C compression-wise is going to kill you eventually. So that sound, I want to say, it's a listening thing too. You got to love, like, good God, whose sound do we love? Phil Smith's sound. Good Lord. Sounds that you want to sound like, it varies though for the types of music.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. Excellent. All right. Let's move on to the next one. You actually kind of touch on this a little bit to begin with. This is called Geared Up. It's about our gear. It's brought to us by Venture Mouthpieces. Venture, where technology, design, and craftsmanship intersect. Use the code Trumpet Gurus 21 at checkout and receive 10% off your order. But let's maybe talk about gear from a slightly different perspective. As you're talking about your setup, but as someone who is a session player, you play sessions yourself and you contract sessions for other people. What are kind of the things that you would say people should keep in mind in terms of their choice of their gear? Because I know there's certain, like you're talking about mouthpieces, there's certain sounds you're going to get out of a certain mouthpiece, just like with the horn, there's going to be certain ones that will lend themselves to different things. So how do you go about suggesting to people how to look at their gear for the kind of work?
Sometimes I'll get hit up just on a blind email because everything that I do is everything I do is findable on the internet for years and years of Google searches. And so if you type in musician contractor Los Angeles, orchestra contractor Los Angeles, I come up on page one, ChrisTedesco.com. And I will get an email from other players. I got an email from a drummer the other day, but I will get an email from a trumpet player, and they'll say, "Hey, I'm new in town. I studied at I studied at such and such, and I played some classical, played some jazz. I'm new to town. I'm wondering what to do. I'm new, shit. I was new in town. I was 1987. I was 26. So, yeah, I was 26 when I moved there. So I did the same thing. I called up people. I said, "Hey, I'm starting off at the bottom. I came here with one flugel mouthpiece and one trumpet mouthpiece. Maybe I had a 3C, and I had a Yamaha before they started looking like Box. I don't know. It was like 11B4. It was like a stock Yamaha thing that came with some horn. So I had two mouthpieces. I didn't have a lead mouthpiece, and I didn't have a bigger classical mouthpiece. So then I will get hit by a trumpet player. Hey, I'm new to town. I'll say, you need to come over my house. You need to bring all your horns, all your mouthpieces, and we need to play together. You need to show me what you can do, to hear your sound and stuff like that." So, but a lot of guys, if they want to be all around, are already hip to the different underparts or mouthpieces that have, with the computer lathe machines like GR will have his stock 66, and it'll have like a classical mouthpiece, a jazz mouthpiece, and a lead mouthpiece. Like I know Bergeron has mouthpieces, Dan Fornero, and so they have like 3 versions of each one, same rim because it's computer, and so I use a threadable thing. So like gear-wise, it goes back to what you want to accomplish as a player. If you love playing jazz choruses and you're a great jazz player, and you don't want to be a lead player, and you don't want to do classical trumpet sessions, and you don't want to play in orchestras, or you're not. So then, if you're that jazz player, you need a mouthpiece that I'm a huge fan of nice big full sound jazz trumpet players. Freddie Hubbard, Lee Morgan. There's a different sound now these days with this airy jazz thing, which I get. It's like a really cool personal thing. I cannot do it. I've had to do it in the studio here. Kenny Rampton showed me how to do it, which means like you barely blow and you get this fuzzy thing. You spend so many years trying to get this great sound, this great big buttery sound, right? And they want you to sound airy like this, like this midnight oil jazz player, smoky. And so like I'm a huge fan of those big trumpet sounds jazz-wise, right? Nicholas Payton, god damn. When he first came out, I think the dude played a New York Bach in like a 1C, and he was fearless. He's like Freddie Hubbard, but on 10, right? And so for me, going back to being the chameleon guy, and I want to say, master of all, jack of all, master of none, I'm very convincible on each one of these styles to a certain degree, And so, I mean, I know a lot of guys that have this pouch. This is a Reeves pouch, but there's other people making this pouch. And if that seems like a lot, I got a desk over here behind me. But I'm not using any of the stuff on the desk, right? I'm using a Curry C to J, which is like the Reeves classical to jazz. It's like a flugelhorn mouthpiece with an underpart. Everything's been threaded by a French horn repair guy, brass repair guy, that's threaded to Reeves 32 threads. So this is a huge flugel-like, but it's a trumpet shank, and I use that for way deep classical playing, not going high, getting all the fuzzies out of the sound, sounding like this only trumpet. Tim Morrison, you're hip to Tim Morrison, right? He doesn't play anymore, he just teaches. That guy's vibrato and sound. And I did study with Tim when I was going for some classical auditions just to force myself to practice. I don't expect to get a job in an orchestra in LA, but I would do the process and go and take the audition just to see how I would do. But I would take lessons with Tim Morrison, Malcolm McNabb. And then so I studied with Tim, and boy, does he got a great sound. And so I think he messed up his chops. He only teaches, and he goes through hundreds of mouthpieces. So that large underpart works tremendously for low, beautiful trumpet playing, even jazz stuff. I have a Reeves M cup, stock M, no numbers to the shank or backbore, and then that Reeves ES, which is literally that. You see how shallow that is?
Yeah.
I put a rim on that. I can still play that because that throat is like a double Parduba cup.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not the holy grail for lead playing, but I can do what I need to do on it, and I've never played it. Bob did it himself, and it's got to be about 15 years old. Never played it, and that's my screamer. And then I have cornet underparts. I have cornet underparts, and I think that's it. Like, so each one of those is chameleon-like, and then if you can see on the wall, I've got every horn, C, D, E flat, piccolo, flugel, cornet. I have an F French horn, which I hate playing because F horn is like messes with your head. It messes with your pitch. You know, what do you call it? Good Lord, there's a B flat French horn. I have a Yamaha Pro B flat French horn. Can you see the rim on it?
Yep.
It's a trumpet rim threaded to a French horn underpart. You want to talk about cheating? French horn underpart, trumpet player rim. You ever play a French horn rim?
Yes, I have.
Okay, you want to talk about messing up your chops? Mm-hmm. And you can play everything with all the same fingerings, but as you go lower, you can still use alternates. So down low, a C sharp is 1 and 2, and it's also 1, 2, and 3. So tuning options on the French horn, you know, the hardest thing about the French horn is finding out where the water is and your hand position.
Yeah.
Those and so, but a B flat French horn makes total sense. I make the composers send me parts one step up from concert, and they go, "Really?" I go, "Yeah." There's B flat French horns in brass band music all the time. It's B flat French horn, same exact sound as an F horn. Doesn't mess with my ears. The hardest thing is playing low, but you know I don't get a lot of low parts. But like, that's actually. I can't do this last part of that you know, that till Hooligan Spiegel. I can't get the low F concert. I can't get it. There's no freaking way. I'm a trumpet player, but I can play a high F on this. You know what the thing about French horn is? You can play it all day. It doesn't hurt. It does not hurt. It doesn't hurt.
For years.
Right? I mean, like, so sometimes some of my sessions are just playing French horn parts, and I go to the guy, I go, you know, I'm not a French horn player. I do this to make more money, doubling wise. You know, you send me stuff, and hey, I hear French horns in there. Do you want me to do your French horn? You know, replacing samples is what we do these days, right? Mm-hmm. So, do you want me to replace your French horns? He goes, oh, sure. You know, okay, send me the parts in B flat. He goes, you're sure? I go, yeah. You know, so I've probably been playing this about 5 years. I got a valve trombone. It's in B flat concert. I don't really practice it. I don't really practice the French horn that much. I just need a couple minutes on the French horn to get used to. The notes are very close together. So, right. You know, so that same Marcinkiewicz 300 rim is my flugelhorn rim, is my French horn rim. And it amazingly fits on a French horn underpart. You know, so I'm masquerading as these other players. I mean, can you imagine if I had to do that on a slide? No. Right? So yeah, you play that for a half hour. You got a fat lip. That's how you get your airy sound on trumpet. If you want to get an airy sound on trumpet, play that valve trombone for a half hour. You know, so gear wise, you got to study what what that sound is needed for that kind of music. If you're a lead trumpet player and you're coming in town and you want to be competitive with Wayne Bergeron being that screamer, you better have a horn and a mouthpiece that you love that keeps you up there without cutting your lip. You know, if that's what you like to do, if you want to do a little bit of everything, you need an underpart of everything.
Yeah.
And you know, and then I find that once I zero in on something, I don't change. You know, if something works, it works.
Yeah.
If it feels good on your face, it's going to feel good when you play music with it.
That's half the battle right there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have one final segment to get through, and
Good God, I've been talking my ass off. I'm so sorry.
so this is the last one, and this is the fastest one. Or it's supposed to be the fastest one. So we'll see how quick you can be, Squirrel. This is the Robinson's Remedy Rapid Fire Round. It's a series of questions that bounce all over the place. You can't use your crib notes, even though I know you have them there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Okay, I'm putting them down. Okay.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Chris Tedesco, welcome to the Robinson's Remedy Rapid Fire Round. Here's your first question. Who's the biggest influence on your life that is not a trumpet player?
My dad.
All right, what's your favorite book?
Rick Steves' Italy travel book.
What's the worst movie you've ever seen?
Good God, you know, there's I'm in SAG-AFTRA. I'm not an actor, but I got my SAG card back in 2010 as the marching band leader of the band, and I do a couple things on camera every now and then, and I get these screeners, and I just watched with my daughter Everything, Everywhere, All the Time, or whatever that movie is out right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, worst movie I've ever seen. My daughter liked it. I'm like, I don't get it. I can't get that hour and a half, 2 hours back.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've been thinking about it, so we'll see. All right. If you weren't a trumpet player, what would you want to be?
Italian tour guide.
Official pizza. What is your favorite drink?
Like what? Like alcoholic drink?
Anything.
Italian red wine.
Okay. You have a dinner party. Invite any 3 living people. Who would you want to have there?
3 living. Barack Obama. 3 living. Barack Obama. Music wise. Oh God, who's my hero now? Oh my God, Barack Obama. Living. Oh, music wise. Oh, Wynton Marsalis. I mean, I've hung with Wynton, but never had dinner with him. And let's say somebody else. Oh, Al Pacino.
Okay. 3 additional chairs at your table. Any 3 people from history?
Clifford Brown, Louis Armstrong, and Ella Fitzgerald.
Okay. Good dinner. I'm sure it'll be Italian, I'm sure. Lacquer, plated, or raw?
Can I pick 2? I have some. You know what? Lacquer.
Okay, you're a lacquer kind of guy.
I got silver ones too, though. But like, you know, I love my silver plated box C trumpet. It's silver for a reason. It's brighter. I love it. But yeah, let's say lacquer.
Okay. What's your favorite quote?
It's probably in my outgoing email. I don't know if I sometimes I take those off if I already know somebody. That I have to look at. Good God. Tommy Tedesco. Think big, talk small, and thank God.
Okay. There you go. What's your greatest fear?
Jesus, like everything. Music wise, somehow that top, you know, because I learned damage in my lip that top lip will vibrate if air goes past it. So maybe one day, no top lip vibration music wise. Other fear life wise, maybe not living long enough to see my kids really do what they want to do.
You could be granted one superpower. What would it be?
I think superpower. What is it like a Marvel movie? Superpower? I think flying. Like if you could fly yourself.
Okay. Yeah, make it easier to get over to Italy. Uh, what aspect of trumpet playing do you find to be the most overrated?
You mean like what people do, like as players?
Yeah, I mean the thing that people emphasize, give more weight than maybe they should.
You know, the high note game is like, you know what? Trumpet players love to hear other guys just like killing it, right? And I do not want to take anything away from anybody that can play up there and just have a blast. And they obviously love to do it. Um, the guys that do it, they do it so well. Mike Lovett, Wayne Bergeron, Louis Doswell, they're Faddis, and good God, these guys are like, and I can't listen to that a long, long time. I want to hear the ballad that doesn't go above an F concert, So I don't want to just say generally high notes are overrated because a gorilla can learn how to do it. Guess what? My top range is an F concert, and then I'm in Pro Tools pitching something up a step, because I can't. You can't really go much farther than a step. But I want to say super scream. My wife said it perfectly a couple years ago. I was watching Maynard Ferguson video from the mid '70s, Live at the Top, which was a restaurant in Rochester, and it's a great video. And she comes in, and I'm watching it, and she goes, "Do people really like that?" She goes, "It sounds like somebody's letting the air out of a balloon." And she's kind of right, but Maynard was a pop star, man. He arranged every pop tune out there and made it viable for the public. So there's commerce in that, and like the high note thing is great, but I want to hear you on Racy play Chinatown
Yeah.
instead. Okay.
All right. So the converse of that, what aspect do you think is the most underrated?
Soft, beautiful, low playing, most underrated. Controlled, it's the hardest thing to do. I don't know how much classical you do, but I can tell you right now, the most humbling piece of practice is page 1 of Schlossberg.
Got my Schlossberg book, I guess.
Oh my God, you want to humble yourself? That's what if you went to a lesson with you on Racy, which I did many times, Schlossberg page 1, and you find out how good a trumpet player you are. Oh my God.
I'll check that out for sure. All right. You can go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice about music. What would it be?
Being an all styles guy, I'd go back and say, you on the Miller band that's making fun of these solos, stay 6 months and then leave, not 2 weeks, 4 weeks.
Okay. And while you're back there, you're going to give yourself one piece of advice about life.
Life in general. Don't sweat the small stuff. In other words, only get heated up over the stuff that needs getting heated up for.
All right. And final question for you, Chris, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh God, like if I'm gone and people talk about me here in LA, good Lord. I love putting money in people's pockets. I love like when I go to work, my atmosphere on a job or a session is different than some other atmospheres here in LA. Oh, for some big stuff. In other words, I had this conversation with Malcolm McNabb with Mike Lovett a couple of weeks ago. They had a lot of fun in their days of doing stuff. Now, mind you, there was 5 orchestras working at the same time on 5 different movies or 5 different TV shows. So you could mess around in Tommy Tedesco's day and Malcolm McNabb's day. You could mess around and have fun because you're not going to get fired because everybody plays at a high level. Tommy used to mess around a lot. Malcolm, they used to pull pranks on other trumpet players and other players in the orchestra. You do that now. There are 2 or 3 contractors in town. There's a cello guy that's super uptight, hate working for him. And I don't work that much for other contractors because I contract myself. They don't need somebody that does their same job. They are very, very self-conscious of that. So many times I'm not asked to that party because I do their job. And I think I do my job really well. I create an environment that's super fun. So when people take my job, they don't have to worry about like, of course you got to show up. You show up on time, you play well, but you're going to have fun on my jobs. Some jobs I only contract and conduct. Love conducting. Doesn't hurt. It's not a trumpet. So, one of the top contractors in town has the worst reputation of being the biggest a-hole in town, but he's got the most amount of work. And he fear mongers in the studio during the sessions. He plays with people's heads. Let's say you have one of his demo sessions making $40 an hour. You get called from me to make full rate, movie rate, $300 for 3 hours or $350, $400, whatever. He will not let that player out of that low budget demo rate to go work for Chris. He'll hold you to that low job just to be a prick. And so this unethical stuff, fear, playing with people's careers, creating everybody I talk to, they're like, oh God, they'll say, hey, I'll say, I'm booking some players coming up and it's getting busy coming up. And they'll say, oh no, I can't do it. I'm working for so-and-so that week. And they'll go, yeah, I hate working for them, but I got to take the money. Good God, why do you want to be that guy? So when I book something, it could be a big band thing. We got into this because it was more fun than anything else. Okay? You literally are still playing trumpet because it's more fun than anything else. So I try to sit back and get out of my space and go, okay, what's up with this job? Does it pay enough? Great. Can I hire people I like? Great. Is everybody sane? My criteria is got to play great. You got to cover the music of the job, whatever it is. And I know what everybody does. And there's some new young players sometimes I might not know, maybe some specialty instruments. So got to cover the music, whatever it is. My other thing is you got to need the money. So do I call Malcolm McNabb to sit next to me to play a classical session for a little movie or a TV show? He doesn't need the money. Does he want to come and do it? He told me a couple of weeks ago, yeah, I'll come and do that. I'll sit second now. I'm retired. But then I know when it's time to get in the car, he's going to go, oh, shit, man. Why did I say yes to this? So like, he doesn't need the money. So I try to think of, play the job. You need the money. You're not insane. And you're not part of the problem why LA is working less than it ever has in the history of Hollywood. We're a global economy, but LA is only grabbing only a small share of the market recording worldwide. We could grab a lot more, but we'd have to match some business models around the globe, which our musicians union does not want to do. So that's my criteria for going to work. So my legacy would be, come work with me. We're gonna make music. We're gonna have fun, and it's not gonna be a unpleasant work environment, live or session. And I think I have that, and so maybe that's why I'm still standing. 35 years later, I just started my 36th year here.
Wow.
I know I don't look that old, right?
You don't look a year older than me, which you are. But I tell you what, man, I certainly appreciate our time together because there's so much stuff that you've touched on, and I'd actually love to get you back on some other time to talk.
Yeah, anytime, sure.
Get deeper into some of this stuff because, yeah, it's there's so much knowledge and wisdom that you've gained over the years, and I think that your voice needs to be heard.
Oh, so. You know what? I'm happy to share with anybody or anything about what we do to make this easier, because we've chosen not such an easy path. Yeah. And so no harm, no foul. I hope it helps. Man, if it helps one person, great.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
all right, so until next time, folks, peace and slide grease. We out.
Thanks, Jose.
Thanks for hanging with us today. This podcast is all about creating deeper connections through our mutual love of music and the trumpet life. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast And also like and share this episode with a friend. We want to see the hang grow for show. Please support our sponsors and consider becoming a personal supporter of this podcast as well. Remember, for less than the price of a bottle of valve oil a month, you can keep this podcast moving smoothly. The Trumpet Gurus Hang is recorded at the Candy Factory, a co-working space and social club located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Jose Johnson is the executive producer. Post-production editing is by Mitch Bowers. Our opening theme song was composed and performed by Lexi Signor, and our closing theme music comes courtesy of The Greatest Funeral Ever. Incidental music is by Ethan Swayze and Jose Johnson. Graphic design by Ann Kirby of the Sweet Corps. The Trumpet Gurus Hang podcast is produced in collaboration with the So Good Lancaster Media Group.